Welcome back to Fantasy Fools. In today's video, we're going to be covering my dream team for the AFC North. Hop right on into it. Start things on off here with Lamar Jackson, the Baltimore quarterback. The dude is just the best quarterback in that division, in my opinion. You can make an argument for like Joe Burrow, but Lamar literally just does it all. He can throw the ball to his teammates. He can run the ball. He's got quite a few weapons around him. I don't think he utilized them all that well last year, but I think he's going to look a lot better this year with Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews there as his tight ends. And then you also have Derrick Henry now at running back. Sorry, I blanked there for a second. But Derrick Henry at running backs, you actually should have a healthy running back all year, which might even take the load of him running the ball off his plate, which longevity wise will help him out just a little bit. But Lamar Jackson, in my opinion, when it comes to a fantasy perspective, picks up a lot of points because he rushes in touchdowns. He runs the ball quite a bit. He throws a decent amount of yardage, every game, and he's honestly just a great overall quarterback to have within your fantasy league. And if I had him on like my dream team, I'd be happy. Like he'd be the quarterback in the division, obviously, that I'd want on my dream team, just because of how versatile he is, and he's not kind of limited. Like he can throw the ball in the pocket, he can run the ball, and the dude's just an absolute unit. So that's enough said there. To move on forward with that, we got Derrick Henry, and I was torn between a few different guys here. I will explain that as we get to the next one. But I think I'd go with him right now as my running back one in this division, just simply because of, well, probably injuries. If I'm being completely honest, that'd probably be why I'd pick him as my running back one. Otherwise, I'd probably take Nick Chubb, but to avoid the Nick Chubb topic until we get to the next running back, Derrick Henry was the man on a mission in Tennessee. Really, the only weapon they had for so many years over there, aside from D Hop that was there last year. So he's shown he can run the ball quite a bit, and he's really effective with it. Lots of games with over 100 yards. He doesn't do a lot of receiving, but um, he can when he needs to, but he's more of that powerhouse running back, and that's what I really like about him. And he's easily, in my opinion, best running back in the division right now, unless Nick Chubb, who my running back two is fully healthy. If Nick Chubb's fully healthy, that man can run the ball. He can catch the ball. He's a man on a freaking mission. Like if he wasn't injured going into this year, I'd probably have him as my RB1 on this team, but due to his injuries, I kind of got to mix him in there. I was a little bit torn with this division because I actually think there's a lot of talented running backs in this one, along with like Najee Harris and like Zach Moss and even Jalen Warren, all of them of which can run the ball quite a bit. And then you also have Jerome Ford. So it was kind of tough to pick a running back here at the RB2. I personally just would go with Nick Chubb, a healthy one at least. If he turns out to not be healthy for most of the year, obviously I would go with probably Najee Harris, and then my bench running back would probably be Zach Moss or Jalen Warren. It was just hard to pick because Najee's had a few bad years there. Warren had a pretty solid year last year. It was kind of a toss up. I know my dad actually picked Jalen Warren as his running back too, which honestly I don't necessarily disagree with. I don't fully agree with it either. I think Najee's the guy there, not Warren, but um, yeah, Nick Chubb, he's an absolute unit. We've all seen what he could do. He's come back from injuries before. I think he can do it again here, and he's the guy I'd go with here in this situation. At wide receiver one, Jamar Chase, who I think might actually be the best receiver this year. We'll see how that pans out, but the dude's a beast. Had a bit of a slow start last year, but kind of bounced back once he voiced his opinion about not getting the ball and that whole spiel. But he he's a talented receiver. I don't really care for him much, but I would obviously have to pick him as my wide receiver one in this division if I were to pick players from this division alone here. But yeah, I'd go Jamar Chase. He's just really talented. He can be up there with Justin Jefferson. Like I said, he might even be the best receiver this year. I don't see Tyreek duplicating it again this year. I don't see CD duplicating it this year again as well. All that stuff I'll talk about in a later video we got coming up here in a week or so about like our rankings. But Jamar Chase, top five for sure. Could be the top guy. Got to pick him this time around. Wide receiver two, and I know I'm going to take a little bit of heat for this. I would go Amari Cooper personally. He's just been more consistent these last few years, even in his old age. And don't get me wrong, my wide receiver three, who you'll see here shortly, and George Pickens, just hasn't really had a good quarterback, so I couldn't really put him here at the spot just yet. But Amari Cooper to me is probably a top three wide receiver in this division right now. I know there's talks about him being traded, but um, as of today's date and recording it, he has made no moves, so I got to stick with him at my wide receiver too. He's also been consistent in fantasy football as well, typically around that T12, T15 range. So I kind of had to just stick with him here a little bit. And yeah, I mean, the dude's pretty good himself. I can't knock him. Bounced around from a few teams, but he's always somewhat shown his talent. Moving forward at that, we got our wide receiver three here, which is going to be George Pickens. I think this is something where he could easily be a wide receiver two with Russell Wilson or Justin Fields under center. I don't think it matters which quarterback is in that situation. He should be the wide receiver two in the division after this year. He just hasn't had enough as of right now to show me that he is that solid wide receiver two here in this division. So that's why I have him sitting at my wide receiver three. But he is really talented, bit egotistical, but you kind of need that in sports. So I don't necessarily hate it, but it's also, I think, impacted his value just a little bit because he doesn't, I don't know, see where he needs to improve or such things like that. But we'll kind of see how things go moving forward. Again, he'll probably be a wide receiver too, this time around next year when we talk about it. So, look forward to that. It was hard to pick between the two, but I went with my guts, went with the vet himself and Cooper for wide receiver two. But not a bad spot sitting at wide receiver three. You'd be on the starting roster, and heck, if you're that wide receiver two, you'd be showing yourself. This is all just dream team, so like, got to make some tough decisions here on what I'd want, where. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be used that way type thing if it ever were to happen type dealio, but to move forward with that, we got our tight end and Mark Andrews. He's easily the best tight end in the league, in my opinion. I think he does outdo Travis Kelce. I know that might be a bit of a hot take there, but I think Andrews is easily the best tight end in the league. Faced an injury last year, which sucks because the dude would have had an amazing year. Him and Zay Flowers both would have been like gone hand in hand, like really good together. So it was unfortunate to see because I really like watching Mark Andrews play. He's always sitting in that top three range as a tight end. I think he's the best of the three. It's just hard to show that sometimes when you look at like fantasy value, um, just due to the fact that Lamar is able to create plays himself and he doesn't need to always dish the ball off to a tight end or a wide receiver. So um, that didn't impact him here for me in this division. The only other person I was considering probably Njoku, but he's only had like one or two like good years, so it's tough to fully judge that without like seeing it consistently from Njoku. But Mark Andrews easily the top guy there for me. To get into our bench players here, I'm gonna start things on off here with Joe Burrow. Between these two quarterbacks, I think Lamar's mobility was the only reason I took him above Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's a really good quarterback in his own rights. Just battles some injuries here and there, and a little inconsistent at times. But I think heading into this year, he's probably going to be one of the top quarterbacks, and I think he could even be the top guy this year with Jamar Chase. So I'm excited to see how they do throughout the year, and I felt the need to have a backup quarterback just because there are two really talented quarterbacks here. Even a third one in Deshaun, but he hasn't been like, Houston Texans Deshaun, so it's kind of hard to judge him. But for me, Joe Burrow, easily the second best quarterback in this division. Could even be the best after this year. You never know. But yeah, he's going to be my first backup here. Moving on into our second backup here, I am going to be taking Zay Flowers. I think Zay Flowers has a pretty solid upside. He had a pretty solid rookie season. I think he eclipsed 1,000 yards there. And he had quite a few touchdowns. Most of them came in the weeks I was playing him in fantasy, but it's all good. He really quick. He's a really quick receiver. He kind of reminds me of like Jordan Addison, just like a little bit taller. But he's got the speed. He's a good weapon there for Lamar, and I think he's going to be even better this year with Mark Andrews back because Mark Andrews like opens things up quite a bit. So I'm excited to see how Zay Flowers does this year, and he could be one of the top three wide receivers here in this division. I could see him surpassing like Cooper, and being in that wide receiver three. I don't see him doing better than Jamar and Pickens this year, but we'll see. You never know. Things pan out differently than you think going into the season. To round things on off here, I'm going to take Najee Harris. I think he's probably the third best running back here in this division if Nick Chubb's healthy. Otherwise, I think he is sitting at that second spot. He does have to split reps with Warren, but Warren's a beast, so like you have to give him the ball and let him get in his flow as well. But I think we'll see Najee get in the ball quite a bit more this year, and I could potentially see him be like a top two running back in this division, but maybe on the edge. He'll probably still be the third, but that depends on Nick Chubb. In all honesty, Jerome Ford even in the starting role could be like that guy. He was really good last year, and it was nice having him in the receiving game as well. I know they brought in Kareem Hunt at one point last year there on the Browns, but Jerome Ford can do it all. He can run the ball and he can catch the ball. Like, the dude was nice in fantasy last year, and I think he proved himself. So that's going to be my AFC North team here. You guys want to watch any shorter videos, go check us out on TikTok and watch our YouTube shorts, because we do just a quick little video there. If you want to check those out, perfectly fine. Go check us out on Twitter or X now, and Instagram, Fantasy Fools PPR. TikTok is Fantasy Fools PPR as well. And then obviously you're here on YouTube. You guys see it there on the screen. Make sure to subscribe if you want to stay up to date on our videos. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time.